In Hebrews 11 it says, without faith it is impossible to please God. Anyone who comes to me must believe I exist. That's the point. If you're having trouble in school, you go to a stranger on the street, hey, this teacher's driving me nuts. Can you help me? No. You go to a friend, say, Mr. So-and-so, he's an idiot, isn't he? Agree with me so it makes me feel better. But you know that friend. You have a relationship with them. You wouldn't go downtown and ask for financial advice to somebody standing on the corner. I have no relationship with those people. But with Jesus Christ, we have a relationship to build our faith. In John 14, Christ says, I am the way, the truth, and the life. No one comes to the Father but by me. And then Philip stands and says to him, but just show us the Father, Lord, and we'll believe. Jesus looks at him and says, you've known me for this long, and you don't trust me. I've told you, if you see me, you've seen the Father. What's that mean? The Bible has incredible stories of faith. And just before I go on, I just want to say something to the young people. Don't wait till you're 60 to realize how important this book is. Really. This book is so important to life. And it's no accident that it's lasted for 2,000 years. Try and read this every day. The closer you get to this book, the easier life becomes. Believe me, it works. I think about the Bible and some of the things that God had to go through. I think of the Israelites. Like, how much does he have to prove to the Israelites before they believe? They watched 10 plagues in Egypt. None of them affect them, just the Egyptians. And finally they say, I guess it's safe to leave. Moses takes them out into the desert. They run into the Red Sea. Now, if you know anything about the Red Sea, it's about 2,500 kilometers long. There's one place in the Red Sea, where there's a shallow shelf under the water. It's Nuweiba Beach. They've done archaeological dives there and found remnants of chariot wheels and axles there. Yeah. That's the only place they could have crossed. So those crazy Israelites saw the water open up, and when they crossed the path, they didn't cross in mud. It was dirt. It was sandy dust. They got to the other side, they looked back, and you know what happened. They saw them all killed. Wow, God's on our side. Shortly after, Moses says, I'm sending out 12 spies to go into the land of Canaan so you can see how we can do. Give us a scouting report. The 12 come back. 2 of them said, no problem, we can take them. We've got God on our side. We can take them. 10 of them say, no. Too big, too strong. We'll never make it. Moses and Aaron fell on their face and said, what is the matter with you people? When are you going to believe? And what about the food? They didn't have to hunt. They got manna from heaven. There were 600,000 men in the group, 20 years and older. That equates to about 2 million people that exited Egypt. 2 million. Sunday dinner is not going to feed that. The equivalent of 26 rail cars full of manna a day dropped. For 40 years. And how did the Israelites react? We want meat. What? Take us back to Egypt. At least we can get meat. Wow. Wow. What about you? In Proverbs it says, fear disables us, but faith dispels fear. Ever been afraid? Ever been really afraid? Ever been afraid, but you want everybody else to know it's no big deal? And inside, you're just churning. Well, let me tell you, if you can answer no to that, especially the young people, your day is coming. You'll feel fear. My wife contracted breast cancer about 10 years ago. And you can talk about faith and you can say everything you want about it. But when you're faced with a crisis like that, your faith hits the road. Real faith hits the road. We prayed, we cried, but we trusted. We rattled, and our faith went like this. But you know what? God sent people in our way to fortify our faith. Because He is omnipresent. He's always with us. And He knows what's happening to us. Sandy Graves was instrumental in calming Mary. She'd been through it. God sent her. And there were others. But we said, wait a minute, Lord. Why is this happening to us? We're on the team. Why isn't it happening to somebody that doesn't care about you? You know what faith is? Faith is realizing that God has a plan and He's fulfilling it. Hear that again. Faith is realizing that God has a plan and He is fulfilling it through your trial. The story of Isaac and Abraham just blows me away. Abraham and Sarah for years prayed for a son. Couldn't have one. Finally, God grants a son. Sarah's 78 years old. What's that? 78? But God fulfilled His promise. And then what happened was God said to Abraham, go sacrifice Isaac. I'd love to have been there. Because I'm sure Abraham said, Lord, I thought you said sacrifice Isaac. Yeah, I did. Huh? Look at how long it took to get him. What are you saying? So what did Abraham do like we would do? Forget it. No. He had faith that something would happen out of that. And I can't even imagine the relationship between Abraham and Isaac. Can you imagine what you'd be thinking as a child? Dad has lost his brains. But through Isaac, the nation of Israel became what it was. Abraham was the father of the Jews. Do you know, when we look back on our lives, the older you guys get, the more you're going to be able to see the roadmap. You'll see the roadmap that God had for your life, and you'll see where it ended up. And why did that happen? Oh, this. Well, I have to confess, I have an addiction. And I've had an addiction ever since I could walk. It's athletics. Terrible addiction. My parents thought I was nuts. My mother would be making supper upstairs, and she would hear me doing the play-by-play on an NHL game, and I was playing the NHL game by myself in the basement. She said, Gerry, you're certifiably nuts. I'd say, I can't help it. So my dad's dream was that I was going to be an NHL goaltender. That's what it was. He said, keep working, son, and I did. And I'm at junior A camp, and things are going really well. And we have an inter-squad game, and Walt Tkachuk, who played in the NHL for years and was a star, I stopped him. He took a slap shot, and I stopped him. You're not so good. I went home. My dad said, what are you doing home? I thought training camp you stayed. I said, well, Dad, you know what? They said, don't worry about school, and I got to go to school in September because I got grade 13 coming up. He says, huh? So what did you do? I said, I left. You did what? His mouth was open. I'll never forget it. He just turned around and walked away. My mom was giddy with laughter. She loved it. But you know what? God had another plan. The next summer, I was pitching baseball. And we went to Sarnia. My dad drove me to Sarnia. We were playing junior. And I had a pretty good game. A man walked up to us after the game and he said, what's your name, son? Gerry. And your name, sir? Frank. Nice to meet you. He says, I'm so-and-so. I don't even remember his name. He says, I'm a scout for the Detroit Tigers. And he says, I'm the guy who scouted Ferguson Jenkins. Now, Ferguson Jenkins means nothing to you, but Ferguson Jenkins is the most famous Canadian Major League Baseball ever. He's in the Hall of Fame. And he was a great pitcher. He said, son, let me tell you something. He said, you throw harder than Ferguson Jenkins did when I scouted him. I think maybe you got a career. My dad was bubbly. We drove home. I knew he was grabbing that steering wheel. We got to work at this, Gerry. It wasn't 3 weeks later. I was in St. Thomas one night, and I threw a fastball, and I heard a pop. I shattered my right elbow. The plan was gone because God had another plan. In 1 Peter, Peter says, trials will see if your faith is genuine. Listen to what John MacArthur says about faith. God's purpose in allowing trouble is to test the reality of one's faith. When a believer comes through a trial still trusting God, then he knows his faith is genuine. How about you? Do you get rattled? I do. But you know what? There are 10 billion trillion stars in our universe alone. That's more than the sands, the grains of sand on this earth. And what do we read? What did we sing this morning with the guys? He names them one by one. I think he can handle it. Do you know, Marilyn Cools. I don't want to embarrass her. Where are you, Marilyn? I see you. Marilyn Cools, I was there when she was first asked to be a leader for one of the boards. I was standing in earshot, and she said, no way. No way. I can't lead a group. I can't speak in front of people. I can't get up in front of the church and say anything in front of people. That's not me. But you know what? Through faith, Marilyn said yes. And look at her today. She's one of our leaders in the church. You know, in Romans 8 it says, everything works for good to those who love the Lord and are fitting into his plans. Brittany Gengel was a 19-year-old university student in Boca Raton, Florida, at Lynn University. And she went on a mission trip to Haiti because she had a fervor for orphans. And she went down there to work with the orphans. And she got down there, and 3 days later, she texted back to Mom. This is what she texted. They love us so much and everyone is so happy. They love what they have and they work so hard to get nowhere. Yet they're also appreciative of what we do. I am coming back because I want to start an orphanage myself. It wasn't hours after that news that a 7.0 on the Richter scale earthquake hit Haiti. And it was the worst nightmare for the two parents. Worrying what happened. They finally got word that Brittany was on her way home, and they praised the Lord. They danced. And they waited. And they waited. 33 days they waited. And they finally got word that Brittany's body was on its way home. She had collapsed in the rubble with 3 other students. And when she got home, her parents, who were Christian people and thought they had deep faith, they didn't blame God. They said, we want to do something to make the wishes of our daughter real. And so they started a foundation. Be Like Brit. And today there stands an orphanage in Haiti in the shape of a bee that is earthquake-proof, 19,000 square feet, that houses 33 girls and 33 boys. That's faith. But you see, God had a plan. Do you know, when we're standing at the chasm of a mess, and we're looking at it and we're saying, I don't know. I don't know if I can do this. We have to understand He's still in control. No matter what is happening, He's still in control. And He's real. And we can't give up hope. Because you know what? He is hope. Let's pray. Father, we thank You that You are hope. And we are so weak. And when we're faced with those messes, we want to fold up the tent. Lord, help us to rely on our faith and believe it's real. In Your name.